They nailed the lid shut before he even stopped screaming. No one heard it, just the dull thud of pine closing over a body that shouldn't have been there yet. A breath still caught in his throat, fingernails still pink. And when the soil hit the wood, he finally stopped making noise. Marjorie Fennell was never one for imagination. She liked her coffee weak, her routines tight, her windows clean. That Tuesday, she folded socks while the church bell chimed noon. Light filtered through the curtains like it always did, soft and honey-colored. And for a while, everything was as usual. Quiet, predictable, alive. The call came after lunch. Not urgent, not hysterical. Just a calm voice informing her that her brother had passed in his sleep. A peaceful end. No pain. The kind of thing you say when you're trying to spare someone the raw parts of reality. She didn't cry. Not right away. Instead, she sat down at the edge of the bed and looked at the photo on the dresser. David, age 6, with ice cream running down his chin. She remembered how he used to hum to himself while climbing trees. Always the same tune. A lullaby their mother used to sing when the wind outside was too loud. David had always been the fragile one. As a child, his skin bruised like fruit. By the time he was 30, he had developed a habit of fainting when standing up too fast. Doctors poked and nodded. Words like neurovascular, irregular, and rare episodes were used, then forgotten. But David always bounced back. Until he didn't. The funeral was arranged in haste. Something about his condition requiring prompt burial, Marjorie was told. Just a precaution, the undertaker had said, smoothing his tie. Best not to delay in these cases. That phrase clung to her thoughts like a burr. Best not to delay. It was raining the day they buried him. Not a dramatic storm, just the slow, persistent drizzle that makes everything feel heavier. The grave was already dug. The casket looked smaller than she'd imagined. She placed a white carnation on the lid before it was lowered. Then, like everyone else, she turned away and walked back to the waiting car. That night, she couldn't sleep. Her mind kept rewinding to that phone call, to the way the nurse said gone instead of dead, to the slight pause after she said it. She dreamed of scratching. Not hers. Someone else's. Faint and far away, like mice in the walls. In the dream, she pressed her ear to the ground and heard a voice whispering her name. It wasn't panicked, just confused. Marjorie, like it didn't know why it was dark. She woke with her hands clenched around the blanket and sweat pooling at the base of her neck. The next day, she called the funeral home. Was there an autopsy? She asked. The receptionist hesitated, then transferred her. The man who answered had a voice like gravel. No, ma'am. Cause of death was deemed natural. Not unusual for his condition. But he wasn't sick, she said. He had episodes, but he wasn't dying. There was silence. Then, a practiced line. I understand your concern, but I assure you, everything was handled according to proper medical protocol. Proper protocol. Words that sounded like they meant something until you really needed them to. She didn't tell anyone about the dream. She barely understood it herself. But every time she sat down, she imagined Earth. Heavy, unmoving, and something beneath it trying to move. By the end of the week, she visited the cemetery again. Alone this time. The grass was damp. The grave looked no different from the others, but she stood there for nearly an hour, listening. No wind. No birds. Just the distant hum of cars passing. That night, the scratching returned, louder, closer. She woke gasping, her fingernails digging into her palms. She thought she heard breathing beneath the floorboards. She started reading. Premature burial. It wasn't common, not anymore. But it had happened. Cataleptic episodes. Heartbeats too faint to detect. People misdiagnosed, declared gone, only to wake in the darkness with nothing but wood and silence. There were stories. Old ones, mostly. But a few recent enough to feel real. A man in Brazil. A girl in India. A boy in Kentucky. All found too late. Or, worse, never found at all. She tried to forget. She really did. But her dreams became more vivid. In one, she opened the coffin, and David blinked up at her. His lips were blue. His mouth moved, but no sound came out. He just reached up and held her wrist. Tightly. She woke with bruises. She told herself it was coincidence. Sleep paralysis. Anxiety. But she started hearing the humming. That same lullaby. The one he used to sing while climbing trees. coming from under the floor. At first, it was faint, like a memory echoing off the walls. But as the nights wore on, it grew clearer. She could hum along before she even realized what she was doing. It always stopped the moment she turned on the lights. She began sleeping with them on, not because she was afraid. That's what she told herself, anyway. Just practical, sensible. She'd been reading too much, staying up too late. But the power went out. Once. Just once. It was around 2 a.m., and she woke with the strange, immediate awareness that something had changed. The room was dark, completely, unnaturally dark. Streetlights, nightlights, even the red blink of the smoke alarm, gone. Swallowed. And in that thick, absolute silence, she heard it. Breathing. Not hers. Slower. Wetter. Coming from beneath her bed. She didn't scream. Her body locked up so tight she couldn't even move. The breathing shifted, dragging against wood, and she swore she felt it. Just the faintest tremor beneath her mattress, like something shifting its weight. The lights snapped back on. The room was empty, but her carpet, right beside the bed, had a long, fresh scratch in it, as if something had clawed upward from the floor. She stopped going into the bedroom, started sleeping on the couch with the TV on low volume, something cheerful playing, nature shows, old sitcoms. But the humming still found her. Louder now. Sometimes it was outside the window, sometimes behind the bathroom mirror, and sometimes it came with the sound of nails. Scraping. She visited the cemetery again. This time, she brought a small shovel. She didn't plan to dig. Not really. It just felt safer to have it. Like a weapon. Or a key. The ground was wet. The flowers she'd left had turned brown at the edges. She waited until dusk. Until the last of the visitors had gone. Then she knelt beside the grave and pressed her ear to the soil. It was cold. And then, it wasn't. A thud. Just one. Followed by silence, so thick her lungs forgot how to fill. She stumbled backward, dropped the shovel, and ran. No one believed her. Of course they didn't. They said grief does strange things. The mind tries to fill gaps. Comfort itself. Confuse dreams with memory. But she wasn't comforted. She was hunted. A week later, she found something outside her door. A piece of paper. Folded. No envelope. Just her name scrawled on the front. Inside, a drawing. Crude. Childlike. Black crayon on yellow paper. A box. A stick figure. Red lines around the edges. And a single word underneath. Coal. She stared at it for hours. Flipped it over. No clues. No explanation. She burned it in the sink. That night, her phone rang at 3:12 a.m. Unknown number. She didn't answer. Voicemail came through. 3 seconds long. Humming. She threw the phone in the trash. Bought a new one the next morning. Changed numbers. Blocked everything unknown. But still, 3:12. Every night. No caller ID. No ringtone. Just a vibration. Always at 3:12. She started staying with a friend. Julia. Kind. Practical. Didn't ask questions. Marjorie didn't explain much. Just said she needed a break. Time away from the house. The grave. The dreams. The first night at Julia's was quiet. No humming. No scratching. She slept. Second night, too. Almost peaceful. But on the third, Julia shook her awake around 4 a.m. I heard something, she whispered. From the guest room closet. They checked. Nothing there. Just coats. Boxes. Dust. But as Julia turned away, Marjorie saw it. Just for a moment. The box on the top shelf had a long, thin scratch across the front. As if someone inside had tried to push out. She didn't sleep after that. Didn't go back home, either. She tried to move. Out of town. Somewhere brighter. Busier. Where things didn't hum in the dark. But when the movers brought the last box to her new apartment, she froze. The tape was peeled up. Just slightly. Like someone had opened it and sealed it again. And on the side, written in black marker, a word she didn't recognize. Until she looked closer. Not a word. A tune. Drawn out, note by note. His lullaby. That night, she unpacked just the essentials. A blanket. A lamp. A chair. And buried the box in the back of the closet. But she didn't sleep. Because just past 3 a.m., she heard breathing again. Closer now. And something new. Something she hadn't heard before. Not humming. Not scratching. Just a voice. Soft. Confused. From under the floorboards. Marjorie? Is it morning yet?